بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله مالك الملك مجري الفلك مسخر الرياح فالق الإصباح ديان الدين رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنام حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المكرمين، سيما بقية الله في الأراضين وحجته على الخلائق أجمعين، الحجة ابن الحسن فداه أرواح العالمين. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا أبا الحسن يا أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا أول مظلوم، ورحمة الله وبركاته. Tonight is a very important night because it witnessed several major events. Two of the main events are the ascension of the talking Quran and the descent of the silent Quran. Everyone was waiting for the announcement to be made, when all of a sudden Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba, he entered inside the Grand Mosque of Kufa. He went on the pulpit and broke the news to the nation. He gave a concise but very meaningful speech. He said, قبض اليوم رجل لم يسبقه الأولون. A man departed this world today that has no parallel in history. ولا يلحقه الآخرون. And no one in the future will ever be able to come close to him. قبض والله في الليلة التي أسري فيها عيسى إلى السماء. He departed this world on the same day that Jesus ascended to the heavens, and on the same day that the successor of Musa, Yusha ibn Nun, who has many similarities with Amir al-Mu'mineen, Yusha ibn Nun was assassinated. He was killed on the same day. And on the same night, the Quran made the descent on the Prophet. And then the Imam said that every time Ali ibn Abi Talib took part in a war, he had Gabriel on his right side, Mikael on his left side, and he was the standard bearer of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Wallah ma taraka safra wala bayda. He did not leave behind any fortune, any wealth. He left this world empty-handed. And he's the ultimate caliph. He's the ruler. He's the king of the kings. To say that Ali ibn Abi Talib has no parallel in history is a correct but bold statement to make, because history has witnessed many great people, many achievements, prophets, apostles of God, awliyaullah. We're talking about thousands of years and hundreds of millions of men and women But Ali does not have a parallel in history. He does not have a match in history. What's more interesting is the second segment of this statement. And no one in the future, this is a challenge that was made by Imam al-Hasan that still stands till today. No one in the future will ever be able to become like Ali ibn Abi Talib. How so? Just moments before Amir al-Mu'mineen's death, perhaps a few hours or a day or half a day, a man by the name of Asbagh ibn Lubata, he comes to visit the Imam. The Imam was ill, he was on his deathbed. He said to him, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, I had a question that I wanted to ask you. Are you better or Prophet Adam? The Imam said, well, look, generally speaking, it's not wise and it's not good to praise yourself, to speak about your qualities, your achievements. But there are times when there are things that we need to tell the people. They need to be informed to establish the truth. People need to know certain things. Having said that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made everything halal for Prophet Adam. Kulu haythu shi'tuma. You're allowed to eat everything you desire when he was created in paradise. Everything you see before your eyes is permissible, it's halal. Except for one single tree bearing the forbidden fruit. وَلَا تَقْرَبَا هَذِهِ الشَّجَرَ. The only thing that God forbade was eating from that tree. And yet, Prophet Adam went and he ate from that tree. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made everything halal on me. Everything is halal, everything is permissible, except for what's haram, obviously. And yet, I willingly abstain from eating most of the halal food that are made available for me. I have the ability to eat whatever I want, but I don't. They tell him, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, why don't you eat meat? He says, وَلَعَلَّ بِالْحِجَازِ أَوِ الْيَمَامَةِ. There might be a person in the east or in the west who cannot afford buying meat. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it incumbent upon me, upon us, to be equal to the poorest person in my kingdom. The poorest person. لِأَلَّا يَتَبَيَّغْ بِالْفَقِيرِ فَقْرُهُ. So that people wouldn't disbelieve in God. Because what poor people would say is that because there isn't equal distribution of wealth, that means God is not just, and this is how they reject the very notion of the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why the hadith says, every time poverty enters inside a city, it's conjoined with disbelief in God. You see high rates of people not believing in God. And the reason why there isn't equal distribution of wealth is not because God is not just. The reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made you wealthy and didn't make the other guy wealthy is because He wants to test you. And one day, this equation will be reversed. One of your descendants, one of your children will be poor, while one of his children will be rich. And He's testing them now. لِأَلَّا يَتَبَيَّغْ بِالْفَقِيرِ فَقْرُهُ. That's why I have to be equal to the poorest person in my kingdom. They can't afford anything, then I shouldn't eat anything. This is why the Imam dressed modestly, ate modestly. He would wear shoes made from skin. Whenever it snapped, he would stitch it. He used to give it to Imam al-Hasan al-Mushtaba to repair his shoes. He said, Wallah, I repaired it so much, I gave it to someone to repair it, who was Imam al-Hasan, who repaired it repeatedly. Now I feel ashamed of giving my shoes to him to repair it again and again. So he would stitch his shoes. He would wear modestly. One day he goes to the market with Qambar, his servant. He buys 2 shirts. He says to Qambar, which shirt is better? He says, this one, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen. So the Imam gives him the shirt, and he takes the other one. He says, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, you go on the pulpit, you speak. You should wear a shirt that is, befitting. The Imam said, no, because I have to live a life equal to the poorest person in my kingdom. A man says that one day, I went with my father to the mosque of Kufa. He said, I saw this eccentric guy standing on the pulpit. While he was speaking, he would do this. So I said to my dad, I was very young, I said to my dad, who is this guy? What is he doing? He said to me, don't you know him? He's Ali ibn Abi Talib. He's our ruler. He's the Khalifa. We all pledged our allegiance to him. I said, Dad, look at him. Look at what he's doing. He said, you know what he's doing? He only owns 1 pair of rida and izar. Today is Friday. He's giving the Friday sermon. He washed his clothes, but he doesn't have time for the clothes to dry up to wear them again to go on the pulpit. So he needs to wear his wet clothes. And he's drying them up on the mimbar. On the mimbar. ما خلقت لتشغلني أكل الطيبات. I wasn't created to eat tasty food. They say to him, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen. They offered him some food, delicious food made from apple and water and sugar. So he took it, he smelt it, he said, Afaludaj? Is it faludaj? They said, yes, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen. He said, sorry, I can't eat it. They said, Atastahrimuhu ya Ali? Is it haram? He said, no, it's not haram. But the Prophet of Islam used to wear clothes worse than the clothes I'm wearing. And the food that I eat, the quality of food that I eat is better than the quality of food that the Prophet used to eat. وَأَخَافُ إِن لَا أَفْعَلْ إِن لَمْ أَفْعَلْ أَن لَا أَلْحَقَهُ. I want to follow in the footsteps of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. I don't want to be controlled by my desires and my cravings. I don't want to be driven by my desires. I don't want my material being to control me. I want the soul and the spirit to be in charge. One day he passes by, he sees the son of the king of Habasha. The king of Habasha, he believed in the Prophet, and then his son moved to Medina, and he became one of the companions of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. So the Imam sees him digging a well. He said, do you need help? He said, thank you, yes, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen. And the city of Medina, the terrain is very rough. So it's a difficult thing to do, to dig a well. The Imam goes and he helps him in digging the well. After they finished, the Imam jokingly said to Nayzar, who was the son of the king of Abyssinia, he said to him, is it just labor and work, or are you going to give me food as well? He said, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, the food that I have is not suitable for you. It's very dry. He said, what do you think the food of Ali ibn Abi Talib is? As I mentioned one night, the last night, Amir al-Mu'mineen was a guest in his daughter's house. So she brings salt, milk, and bread. He says to her, Bunayya, do you want me to be standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment for a long time? 3 types of food. When have you ever seen me eat 3 types of food? And look at the food that we eat. Just the salad has 20 different types of vegetables and perhaps fruits. Just the salad. ما شغلت ما خلقت ليشغلني أكل الطيبات. What did you think the food of Ali ibn Abi Talib is? And he used to only eat 3 bites. That's what he ate when he was a guest in his daughter's house. You know, she's the host, and she hosted her father, Amir al-Mu'mineen. She likes to cook and prepare tasty food, but he doesn't allow it. He said, I was invited by Amir al-Mu'mineen. I came from the city of Basra. I went to meet the Imam. He said to me, do you want to break your fast, eat your iftar in the mosque, or come to my house? He said, I thought to myself, I'll go to the emperor's house. Most definitely the food is much tastier, much better than the food served in the mosque where all the peasants eat. So he said, I'll join you, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen. He goes to the house of the Imam. The Imam said, do you want to eat with my children, Imam al-Hassan and Hussein? He said, no, I want to eat with you. Then they brought a jar. The Imam was fasting. Imagine, when you're fasting during iftar, you want to eat delicious food. So they brought a jar made from mud. The jar had a seal on it. It was stamped by the seal of Amir al-Mu'mineen, made from clay. So he broke the seal. He opened it. There was just one loaf of bread inside the jar that was so dry. And it smelt, the souring smell irritated me. He said then the Imam had to break it with his knees. Imagine the Imam that was able to lift the door of the gate of Khaybar had to break the bread with his knees. I looked at Imam al-Hassan, I said, Irhamu hadha shaykh. Have some mercy on this old man. He's 63 and look at the food that he's eating. The Imam said, he doesn't let us. We used to open the jar and add some oil, but now he seals it so that he knows if someone tampered with the jar. One day, a man comes to the mosque of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, who had come from a different city. He said, Ya Rasulullah, I'm hungry and I need shelter. I want to be a guest in someone's house. So the Prophet looked at his companions. They were all poor. Back then, the majority of the people were very poor. A group of people were called Ahl al-Suffah, who were extremely poor. They were so poor that they didn't even have clothes to wear. They had to dig holes in the ground to bury their bodies so that people wouldn't see them exposed. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whenever his wives prepared food or people gave food to the Prophet, he would come to the people of Suffah and give them the food. So the Prophet looked at his companion, is there anyone willing to host this man for the night? But everyone's poor, they couldn't afford or they didn't want to. Then the Imam looked at Amir al-Mu'mineen. He said, would you do it? He said, yes, Ya Rasulullah. He goes back home. He tells his wife Fatima al-Zahra, do we have any food left? She said, look, we only have a little bit of food left that I prepared for Imam al-Hassan and Hussein. He said, look, light the fire, put water in the pot and let it boil as if she's preparing food. نوم الأطفال, and put the kids to sleep. We have a guest tonight. He took the food. He gave it to the guest. Back then there was a tradition. They turned off the light or the lantern so that the guest would eat comfortably. The Imam turned off the light turn, and then he pretended to be eating with him. He was pretentious, making sounds and using the spoon as if he's eating with him, so that the guest would eat comfortably. And they spent that night, all of them, Hassan, Hussein, Ali, Fatima, while they were hungry. While they were hungry. The reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made fasting, one of the reasons why fasting is obligatory upon us, is that so that we experience what poor people would experience. Poor people, there are millions of people that are always hungry. Always hungry. They never reach satiety when it comes to food. Never. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to sympathize with the poor people. You go through what they go through, so that you show solidarity, you help them as well. Because usually we're very selfish, very selfish. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to break free from the shackles of selfishness. He wants to make us selfless instead of being selfish. Usually when we help, it's pocket change that we give to the poor. And our annual visit to Disneyland has to happen every year. But this will change. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is testing us. فَلْيَخْشَ الَّذِينَ لَوْ تَرَكُوا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran says, you should be fearful of the fact that one day this equation will change. Today you're rich, there are people that are poor in the West or in the East. If you don't help them, one day your children will become poor and their children will become rich. And even if they help them, it's pocket change that they will give them. And Imam Ali alayhi salam, he wants to show sympathy, solidarity with the poorest people in his nation. فَأَنْتَ أَفْضَلْ أَمْ آدَمْ. Adam couldn't resist eating from the forbidden fruit. But look at me. Then he said to him, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, are you better or Nuh, the great prophet of God? He said, well, Nuh, he was patient with his people. But at the end, he prayed to God to bring down his wrath on his nation, to punish them. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala drowned them. He punished them. As for me, although you wouldn't find anyone in history who was oppressed like Amir al-Mu'mineen. Never. Never. Amir al-Mu'mineen has a nice saying, and yet a very sad one. He says, تشتكي الأمم ظلم رعاتها وأصبحت أشكو ظلم رعيتي. All the nations, they complain about the oppression of their leaders, of their dictators, of their rulers. But with me, I complain from the oppression and persecution of my nation against me. He's the ruler, and they oppress him. Every time he would come down from the pulpit, he would say, ما زلت مظلوما منذ أن قبض رسول الله. Since the day the Prophet departed this world, I've been oppressed. ظلمت عدد الحجر والمدر. There is no one as oppressed as I am. One day, his uncle Abbas says to him, Ya Ali, why is it when the Khalifa, he took austerity measures and he changed the allowance and the salary that he used to give to everyone, he made it less for everyone, but when it comes to qunfudh, he didn't lower his salary, he increased it. Amir al-Mu'mineen looked at his companions, at the people around him, then tears began to flow on his cheek. He said because he wanted to thank him for the time he lashed Fatima al-Zahra. Imagine how much patience the Imam had to display. ما زلت مظلوما منذ أن قبض رسول الله. Just imagine, in the Battle of Siffin, they were so close to victory. Malik al-Ashtar was only 2 meters away from the tent of Muawiyah. And if he was able to enter inside that tent and finish him off, the Ummah would be saved from great deal of misery. And his son Yazid wouldn't have assumed power and killed Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. But all of a sudden, Amr ibn al-As tells Muawiyah they wanted to save themselves, to put the Quran on long spears and then speak to the soldiers and the people of Amir al-Mu'mineen that we want to judge you through the Quran. Let us use the Quran to judge between us. When they did this, a group, a big faction of Amir al-Mu'mineen's army, they said we should stop the war. They're only 2 meters away from the tent of Muawiyah. We have to stop. And Amir al-Mu'mineen doesn't want to impose or coerce or force anything on his people. They should do it willfully, willingly. And that's how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala operates as well. Nothing is forced on us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that this is the ark of salvation, the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. If you want, you can board the ark of salvation. No one's going to force you. No one's going to force you. So he told everyone to stop. They stopped. Then they said, let's appoint someone to agree on something, on a solution to solve this, on a solution to this problem. A lot of people have been killed. Let's find a solution. Amir al-Mu'mineen said, I appoint Malik al-Ashtar to be our delegate, my delegation. They said, no, we want Abu Musa al-Ash'ari. Abu Musa al-Ash'ari is a weak man. He's not a loyal man. He's not committed to his faith. They said, we only want, his people are saying, his army, we only want Abu Musa al-Ash'ari. From the other side, Muawiyah appointed Amr ibn al-As, the cunning, deceitful man. So they sit with each other. Amr ibn al-As tells him, look, we don't have a problem with each other. The problem is between Ali and Muawiyah. So let's bring them down and solve the problem. Abu Musa al-Ash'ari said, that's a good way of thinking. So let's come in front of everyone and make this announcement. Since we have been delegated and tasked with the task of solving the problem. So they go in front of everyone. Amr al-As says to Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, you go first because you're older than me, out of respect. So Abu Musa al-Ash'ari goes in front of everyone and he says, look, we realize that the problem is between Ali and Muawiyah. This is why on my behalf and on behalf of the army of Ali, I remove Ali ibn Abi Talib from his position the way I remove my ring from my finger. Then it was Amr ibn al-As' turn. He said, the way he removed his ring from his finger, I reinstate Muawiyah to be the caliph of the Muslims. So the army of Muawiyah started to yell, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Then the Khawarij, they said to Imam Ali, why did you do this? He said, do what? You were the ones that told me we should stop the war. They said, why did you stop it? Even though we told you, but you shouldn't have yielded to pressure. You shouldn't have listened to us. Look at the way they were thinking. You shouldn't have listened to us. Why did you appoint Abu Musa al-Ash'ari? He said, I didn't appoint Abu Musa al-Ash'ari. You were the ones that appointed Abu Musa al-Ash'ari. Why did you yield to us? And they broke ranks from Amir al-Mu'mineen, and then they fought against Imam Ali alayhi salam. But during these times, never did Amir al-Mu'mineen invoke God's wrath. Never did he ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to punish his people. All he said, I saw the Prophet in a dream. I said to him, Ya Rasulullah, لَقَدْ مَلَلْتُهُمْ وَمَلُّونِي. By God, I am bored of these people. The Prophet said, أُدْعُ عَلَيْهِمْ. You can ask God to punish them. He said, I ask God to take me. I want to die so that someone else comes, takes my position, and then they will start to appreciate Amir al-Mu'mineen. That's why the Imam has this famous saying. He says, tomorrow my secrets will be revealed to you. Tomorrow you'll appreciate me. Let me just give you one small example. Malik al-Ashtar, who was the commander in the Imam's army, he was walking in the market when a man took dates and threw it at Malik al-Ashtar. Malik al-Ashtar looked at him and he ignored him. Then he went inside the mosque. One of the people who were there, who witnessed the incident, he said, did you know who this guy is? This guy is Malik al-Ashtar. He's a commander in the Imam's army. He can kill you if he wants. So the guy was fearful, and he follows Malik al-Ashtar. He goes inside the mosque, and Malik al-Ashtar was praying. When he finished his prayer, he said, Ya Malik, I'm so sorry. I just came to apologize. Malik al-Ashtar said, by God, I only came to the mosque to ask God to forgive you. Now, maybe a decade later, a man who was appointed by Muawiyah to be his governor in the same city in Kufa, a man by the name of Ziyad ibn Abi, the father of Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad, who killed Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. He was on the pulpit when someone throws a pebble at him. So he says, who was it? No one admitted. So he ordered all the doors to be closed and sealed, until you admit and confess that you did it. But everyone dreads the tyrant. So he said, now that we don't know who it was, but I suspect that it was thrown at me from this corner. He ordered 70 men, their hands to be severed, just 10 years later, so that you appreciate Ali ibn Abi Talib. Are you better or Nuh? He said, Nuh asked God to punish his nation, but I didn't, even though I could. Are you better or Musa? He said, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered Musa to go to Fir'aun and speak to him, اذهب إلى فرعون إنه طغى, because he's a tyrant, he said that I have killed an Egyptian man and I am fearful that they might take revenge and kill me for the blood of that Egyptian guy when he got involved in the fight after he left the palace. But with me, when the Prophet ordered me to go to the people of Mecca, وَأَهْلُ مَكَّةَ مَنْ قَدْ عَرِفْتُمْ, and you know the people of Mecca, they were thirsty to shed my blood because they participated in wars, and Amir al-Mu'mineen killed many very famous figures from Quraysh. They were thirsty for his blood. But Amir al-Mu'mineen's reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he had confidence in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He didn't care. His sacrificial spirit permitted him to go to the city of Mecca, even though each and every one of them, the Imam says, each and every one of them wanted to kill me and to sever me into pieces and place a slice of me on each mountain in Mecca. But he had confidence in God. من توكل على الله كان أشجع الناس. If you have reliance on God, you would be the bravest person. We usually depend on physical laws. That's why we're always fearful, not sure, not confident enough. But if you want to tackle any challenge in life, have tawakkul ala Allah, have reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He would sometimes go to the battlefield alone without any guards, without even carrying a weapon. They say, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, they can kill you. We are in a state of war. He said, أَمِنْ أَمْرِ السَّمَاءِ تَحْرُسُنِي أَمْ مِنْ أَمْرِ الْأَرْضِ. He said, are you guarding me? Because they were, following Amir al-Mu'mineen just to guard him in secret. He said, are you guarding me from the heavens, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or from the earth? If it's from God, then no one can guard anyone from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If it's from the earth, then nothing can happen on a celestial level if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't give the permission. تعز من تشاء تذل من تشاء بيدك الخير إنك على كل شيء قدير. They tried so much to belittle the Prophet, and look at how great the Prophet is. For 70 years on 80,000 pulpits. 80,000 pulpits. When the pulpit was the only means to spread knowledge, Ali ibn Abi Talib was cursed. انظروا من روى حديثا عن أبي تراب اهدموا عليه داره. Anyone that mentions a single hadith praising Ali ibn Abi Talib, demolish his house on his head. That was the mandate that was issued by Muawiyah. And yet look at Amir al-Mu'mineen today. Aba Yazid. Look at Muawiyah and look at Amir al-Mu'mineen. Look at the people that go to Najaf. قم وارمق نجف الأغر بنظرة يرتد طرفك وهو باك أرمد. What about Muawiyah's graveside? Does anyone respect Muawiyah? I was telling one of the brothers, I said that many leaders in the Arab world, they claim to be from the descendants of Amir al-Mu'mineen. The former Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak, Muammar al-Qaddafi, King Abdullah, Saddam, and others. My father once said that it's ironic how all these people that hold Muawiyah in high regards. And if you attack Muawiyah, if you say something against Muawiyah, they say, how could you say that? He's the companion. He's the writer of the revelation. He's the uncle of the mu'mineen. And yet none of them would ever say that he's from the descendants of Muawiyah. Why? Why do you say you're the descendant of Ali? Because they know that Ali is different from Muawiyah. And they know that Muawiyah was a bad person. Are you better or Moses? Moses said that I can't go alone. They might kill me. And look at Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam in the battlefield. يدور بالصيد حتى ظن أبصرهم كأن ألف علي حل واديها. You go to the battlefield, you hear the voice of Ali on the right side, on the left side. Everywhere you go, you feel Ali is everywhere. And he's hunting down the enemy combatant. Then they say to him, are you better or Ibrahim? He said, Ibrahim asked God to show him how he brings people back from the dead. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to him, أَوَلَمْ تُؤْمِنْ? Don't you have faith in me? He said, I do, I believe in you. وَلَكِنْ لِيَطْمَئِنَّ قَلْبِي. I want my heart to rest. I want tranquility. I want confirmation. I want to be super confident about it. And with me, والله لو كشف لي الغطاء ما ازددت يقينا. By God, if I was to see the hereafter, see with my eyes the akhirah, the hell, the inferno, paradise, this will not increase my certainty in God. And this is what enabled Amir al-Mu'mineen to behave the way he behaved and to act the way he acted, because he had absolute certainty in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is why Amir al-Mu'mineen is so great. This is why Amir al-Mu'mineen is so special, because he feared nothing and he had absolute faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The hadith says, and inshallah I'll wrap up my speech. The hadith says that Imam Zayn al-Abidin used to spend a lot of time after every salat. Our prayers are answered after every salat, every obligatory salat. The Imam would spend a lot of time asking God to give him certainty. Because if our certainty doesn't correspond and is not proportionate to our faith, then we might believe in things but we don't act accordingly. For example, you invest your money because you know that investing in this field would yield a lot of money. The revenue is considerable. And yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you, if you give charity, if you give $1, it will be multiplied exponentially. It will give you 700 back. We believe in God, but we're not really confident about what He says. That's why the hadith says that if you spend the night sleeping while you have certainty, you're better than a person who spends the night worshiping God, but with doubt. He's doubtful about the akhirah, about the Jannah, about the inferno. Certainty is what we need. To be certain about what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. Allah will keep His promises, and that's what the Imam had. Are you better or Jesus? He said, Jesus without a doubt is a pure soul, had a pure soul. But Jesus, when his mother was about to give birth to Jesus, even though she was raised in a temple, in a place of worship, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Ya Maryam, this is not a place where you give birth to your child. Leave the temple. She goes outside, she goes under the tree, and she gave birth to Jesus. As for me, when my mother Fatima bint Asad was circumambulating around the Kaaba, there was a crack in the wall of the Kaaba. And then there was a sound telling her to enter inside the Kaaba. She goes inside and she gave birth to me inside the Kaaba. And he was killed in the mihrab, in the mosque. And in between, Amir al-Mu'mineen lived a godly life, a God-centered life. Then the man says to him, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, are you better or Muhammad? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Even though the Imam was sick, he couldn't get up, but he was infuriated. He gets up. He says, وَيْحَكْ أَنَا عَبْدٌ مِّنْ عَبِيدِ مُحَمَّدٍ. اللهم صل على محمد وآل. no, 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 don't ever compare me to Muhammad. I'm just a servant. I was raised by Muhammad. My upbringing was on the hands of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I was asked by the brothers to also mention something about the tragedy of Amir al-Mu'mineen in English. So the Imam, in these final moments, he was sleeping, lying on his deathbed, when a doctor is called, a Christian man. He comes, he slaughters a sheep, and then he places a vein from the sheep that was still warm in the head of Amir al-Mu'mineen to see whether the Imam will make it or not. So when he takes out the vein, he says, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, A'had ahdak, you're dying very soon because the poison is streaming in your veins. So the kids, all the orphans, they heard that milk is good for a person who has poison in his system. It will rid the body from all the poison. So Imam al-Hasan, when he opened the door, he found all the orphans lining up on the door of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, each holding a container with milk in it. They said, we heard that milk is good for our father Ali ibn Abi Talib. Give him some milk so that maybe the poison comes out of his system and he survives the attack. One of the little orphans who was there, he said, Sayyidi Aba Muhammad, this milk was given to us by Ali. Take back the milk and give us back Ali ibn Abi Talib. Because they knew that after Amir al-Mu'mineen, no one's going to take care of them. Sallallahu alayka ya Amir al-Mu'mineen.